See, we all have our issues, and when we live in a space, sharing it with either family, with your maybe spouse and your children, with your parents, whatever it is, with your family, or if you're a bachelor, you're sharing it with roommates. See, we all have our issues when we are sharing this space with other people. One is we're not able to express ourselves clearly. We're not happy with the home itself. We don't feel comfortable. We feel irritated, or we are in conflict with those around us. Or sometimes the smallest of things trigger us and we get angry. Sometimes, we are sad, we are uncomfortable, or we don't get enough sleep. Especially for spiritual seekers, one of the main problems in a house is that it feels like they cannot concentrate, they cannot meditate in the house. So in this video today, I'm going to talk about how we can create an environment that is cordial and that is welcoming and that will help your spiritual growth. What is a good, safe, comfortable environment? An environment that promotes peace, environment that promotes happiness, environment that promotes creativity, and an environment that gives comfort. You should feel comfortable in the house. That is the main thing. So today let us dig into it. Today we will talk about how Vastu Shastra can help you live better life and help your spiritual progress.
You are watching Reflections on Reality, presented by Kanchi.
So what is Vastu? Vastu is simply design. See, it is simply architectural design, but architectural design in alignment to nature's laws, in harmony with Mother Earth. So there is a natural Vastu happening even in our Earth. Our planet is called Bhuloka. So Bhuloka also there is a natural energy, how the whole oceans form, the ocean currents, the wind currents, and all these things, right? So being in alignment with nature's laws, with nature's course is Vastu. Back in the day, they would anything you want to design, whether you want to design like you want to create a new city. So they would always first start with something called Brahma Bindu. Brahma Bindu is basically that dot, right? That space, that area from which everything expands. So Brahma Bindu is like the soul of any place. So let's say when they were going to design some cities back in the day, cities were called either Nagaras or Purams. So even today we will hear of Tiruvananthapuram and all these things, and we know about Nagaras also, right? So when they had to design something like that, the first thing they would do is create a space which was the Brahmasthana or a Brahmasthala. Brahmasthala was usually like an empty area or the soul of the place from which they would expand. They would expand in all directions. So we have the 8 cardinal directions. Everybody knows about north, south, east, west, northeast. Intercardinal are the interdirectional are the northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest directions. So the north is usually ruled by Kubera. Kubera is the deity or the devata of riches. The south is ruled by Yama. Yama is the deity or the devata for death, is the devata for discipline, for the devata of is the devata of dharma, righteousness. Then we have the west. The west was ruled by Varuna, Varuna Deva, and the east is ruled by Indra. Indra is the god of all the gods. So you can see that east is given the highest importance in Vastu. Indra is also called Mahendra or Devendra. So he is the god of all the gods. So Devata of king of all the Devatas. So that is east. And then we have the intercardinal, that is northeast, which is Ishanya, ruled by Ishanya. Ishanya is a form of Shiva. And then we have northwest, which is called Vayavya, and it is ruled by Vayu, that is the god of wind. And then we have the southeast, which is ruled by Agni. And then we have the Agni is fire, the devata of fire. and then we have the southwest, which is ruled by Nirutti. It's called Nairutya. Southwest direction is called Nairutya. So we will talk about all these directions in this video. So basically, we must understand that all these things are, the cities would be planned according to that, and the portions belonging to Indra would have certain, like, would have palaces and would have the parliamentary buildings and all those things. So similarly, all the things were designed. Not only were the kingdoms and the cities and the villages were designed according to Vastu, each home is also designed as per used to be designed as per Vastu. So if you look at our planet and we see the 7 continents and the oceans and the seas and all of that, here also we have a Brahmasthala. The Brahmasthala in on Bhuloka, that is our planet Earth, is Mount Kailash. So Mount Kailash is considered the center of the world. So that is the Brahmasthala, or that is the Brahma Bindu, right? This is the Mahameru, on which this is the main thing. From here, the whole world expands, right? And in our traditions, Bharata or India, ancient India is always considered, it is an extension of the Brahmasthala, right? So it is always considered the most auspicious place in the world. So even if you see the world, forget the religions and all that, East India, especially India, has always been the center of wisdom. India has always been the center of gnana, that is wisdom, that is enlightenment, that is liberation. Whether Buddha, Krishna, Rama, there have been thousands and thousands and thousands of realized masters appearing in this place. So the Shastras declare that Bharata is the most auspicious place to realize the self. They are not telling it is the most auspicious place to earn money or to become creative artist or all these things. They are telling to attain the self, to attain enlightenment, this is the most auspicious place in the whole of Bhuloka, right? So even if you see all the Eastern religions, from before, Eastern religions have been the ones providing wisdom to the world. From, I'm talking thousands of years before the advent of Christianity and other religions, it has always been there has been an unbroken lineage of masters and unbroken traditions of teaching, spiritual teachings. So why is Vastu important? It's just a very simple assignment of roles and alignment of spaces based on simple cardinal directions and the winds and the position of the North Pole, the magnetic poles, the North Pole and the South Pole, and also keeping in mind the direction of the wind, the direction of the sun's journey on the across the home. Vastu, simply put, is the art of creating a beautiful space for yourself. Whether you want a peaceful space, whether you want a creative space, whether you want a space that helps you become more efficient, right? Vastu is nothing but creating a space that helps you become more efficient in whatever it is you want to create. So for spiritual seekers, see, especially, so this video, it is good for all people, especially for spiritual seekers. I want to help. I want to talk about creating a home or creating a space that will benefit their spiritual practice. So there are 4 spaces importantly for every spiritual seeker should utilize in the home. I mean, we can talk about everything. See, in a house we have bathrooms and we have bedrooms and we have kitchen and living spaces, right? We have study, we have a lot of things. But the 3 main things every spiritual seeker will use regardless is first the bedroom, because this is where he sleeps, this is where most of us, even read our books. Sometimes most of our, because we're living in closed spaces, we're living in smaller spaces in the cities. So for most people, bedroom is the space where they will meditate also. Bedroom has become a space for sleeping, for your entertainment. It's become a digital hub where you're using all your devices, plus meditation and also reading books. So most people do all of these things in bedroom. It has become like a multi-utility room, which you're using it for many reasons. So that is one of the most important spaces. I would say that is the foremost, most important space that we will talk about today. Alongside that, we have the puja room, which is the place of worship in the house, and that is the most sacred space of the house, right? See, puja rooms are not bigger than bedrooms. There are very less things that you keep in a puja room. You have the deities, you have, certain objects needed to do the worship. Other than this, there's not much. So it is a simpler space, but also there are so many elements to a puja room. So it is important that we go over these things very deliberately and try to understand what makes up, how we can create a perfect puja room for us depending on our needs, right? And then the third thing that I want to talk about is a meditation nook. Not everybody is blessed to have a meditation room or a meditation space that is separate from the bedroom. Ideally, it should be separate from the bedroom. Ideally, you should have a space, or you should have a room that you can go to, and that is your sacred space. But it is not possible always. So if you have enough space in the house, you should create a meditation nook for yourself where you can do your dhyana, where you can do your japa. If you are doing pranayama, you can do your pranayama there. And if you are into yogic practice, it is a good, around that space you can even do yoga. There is no harm in that. So these are the three things. The fourth thing is a study space. See, every spiritual seeker, regardless of your age, regardless of how, whether you are a beginner on the spiritual space or whether you are an expert, wherever you are, right, wherever we are, we need to have a study space. We need to study the scriptures. We need to study the teachings of masters, spiritual teachers, masters, realized masters who have spoken about their own experiences. It is a good practice to read the Upanishads, to study the Veda Samhitas. It is a good practice to read the Itihasas, the Puranas, all these things, and also meditation manuals. You are watching YouTube videos, that is well and good, but I feel that is not sufficient in itself. It is good to read scriptures, whether it is Yoga Vasishta, whether it is Ashtavakra Gita, Avadhut Gita, all these scriptures, Ribu Gita, all these scriptures. It is essential for every spiritual seeker, regardless of where you are on the journey. So the first thing is, when I was a child, I want to start with a story. When I was a child, maybe I was 10 years old or 8 years old, my parents decided to buy a house in a very, like a decent locality, and it was an independent house. So I grew up in an independent house. I grew up in a joint family, and we used to be like 18 of us in, like a small like a small space. And we didn't have any bedrooms of our own. We didn't have separate toilets or bathrooms, any of that. And all the children would sleep under the dining table. So that was our bedroom. In the nights, we would just like get under the dining table and we would just lie down there. We would sleep. We didn't have designated spaces or anything. And this continued till I was maybe 10 or till 12 years old. I was there. But around the time when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, my parents wanted to buy a new house. So they found some way, and they had their hard-earned savings. This was way back in the 80s, 90s. So they had their savings, and they went and they gave an advance to buy a house in a decent locality, which was nice. It was independent and all that. It was customary for my parents that regardless of whatever purchases they make, whether in, like buying a home and all these things, they would always, even if we were renting, we would always consult a friend of my father's. And he was a businessman. He was an engineer by profession, and he had his own business. But unknown to most people, he was a vastu expert. So he was a vastu expert of a, like he was a great expert. So even just by looking at the house, without even reading the vastu or looking at the directions, he would say what would happen, what kind of a house it is and all that. So we had already paid the advance when he came and he wanted to have a look at the place. And as soon as he entered the place, he looked at the house and he said, whoever buys this house will die immediately within a few months by committing suicide. So it was a very specific kind of inauspicious thing to say. When there are vastu experts, we usually say this house is not good, or this energy is blocked and all these things. But this friend of ours, this family friend of ours, came and said, whoever buys this house within a few months will die by committing suicide. So it was a very specific thing, and it was a very inauspicious thing to say. So and we truly trusted him and believed in him, and everything that he said before that and after that, it was like our Vastu Acharya or our Vastu Guru, right? So my parents immediately decided not to go ahead buying that house, and we lost some of that advance as well, because there was a lot of inconvenience for the owner also, and somebody else bought it, and this was when I was 8 or 9 years old, and within maybe 6 months, exactly same thing happened what our Vastu Guru had said, that such a thing would happen, and that came to be. And now it has been maybe 3 decades since then, maybe 3 decades since then, and even now the house is empty. Even now in that whole locality, all the houses, there are people living, and it's a thriving neighborhood. But just this house remains like a haunted house, because that was not the first time or the last time somebody came in and something bad happened. So what I am trying to say is, if you can learn, if you can study about the spaces, it is very important to know that there are positive spaces, there are negative spaces, just like there are positive thoughts and negative thoughts, positive actions and negative actions. Exactly the same way, the way the energy moves in the house can be tremendously positive or tremendously negative, right? So it is possible, and I was not a believer at 8 years old. You don't know what these things are, but over and over and over again, I have come to learn, and I learned from this Vastu Guru. I learned about Vastu from him. So everything I learned as a child, I learned from him. So I can say I learned from the best, but I have come to believe over and over again, looking at the patterns, I have come to believe that these things definitely make a huge impact on the not just the psychology of the individuals living in the house, but also the fate of the individuals living in that space. So the first thing I would say, in a bedroom space, see, bedroom is most important, because if you are not sleeping well, whatever happens in that night, once you go to bed, once you're tucked into bed and you're going to sleep, if you don't get good sleep for whatever reason, see, sometimes we might be stressed, we might have work related tensions or relationship related tensions. All those things are, it can be forgiven. It can be, some things are not, these are not controllables, that those are not under our control. But the space you create for yourself is under your control. Now I am sleeping on a bed. How many pillows I want to keep, um, behind me is up to me. What kind of a pillow I want to keep is up to me. To a large extent, what kind of a quilt I want to put on. All these things are up to us. So it is important to create a space that is first of all cordial to our sleeping, that promotes peaceful sleep. So one of the main things that I have seen, I have been to a lot of houses and I have done this consultation for a lot of friends, and I have seen that many people have mirrors in the bedroom. So open mirrors in the bedroom is a strict no-no, right? See, today whatever I am going to speak about, I will not give you the reasons for every single thing in detail, because then this will become it will take us a couple of hours. I will try to tell you briefly, as per Vastu Shastra, what we should and we should not do. So if you have any doubts, you can write in the comments and I will try to address them. I will try to explain to the best of my ability. So one of the main things, you should not keep open mirrors in the bedroom. I have seen a lot of people keeping mirrors right opposite the bed. So keeping mirror right opposite the bed is a strict no-no, and keeping mirrors on the ceiling or somewhere else. You want to have mirrors, it is absolutely fine, but they should be from your bed, from your sleeping position. You should not be able to see the reflection of the mirror. So whatever is happening in the mirror, you should not be able to see yourself to a large extent, and it should not be open. You should not be able to see any reflection in the mirror. That is the first thing. So this is one of the main things of our bedroom. And then there is an ex-Prime Minister of India, yeah, and I was shocked to see his bedroom. There were multiple things that were wrong with his bedroom. So one of the things that is majorly wrong is that first of all he is a grihastha, so he is married and he has his wife and all that, and his bedside, his headboard has a lot of murtis or vigrahas of devatas on the headboard on the bed itself. So this is not the place to keep any vigrahas. This is not the place to keep any murtis of devatas, of any gods. So he had lined it up on the bed itself. So as per Vastu, the headboard should always be empty, should always be clear, right? And behind you, so suppose you are sleeping, on the headboard you should not have anything, or behind it you should not have shelf. So this kind of a shelf with books and all these things should not be where you are sleeping, right? If you really want to have a painting on top, that is fine, that is not against it. But any kind of heavy things that are, it's a simple thing, things should not fall on you, or you should not psychologically feel that they could fall on you, or they should not create a weight towards the on the headboard. So that is one thing. So one of the most important thing is around your bed. We have bedside tables, we have the headboard, and we have the wall behind us. There should be no clutter in this space. There should be absolutely no clutter and no collection of dust. As much as possible, keep the space around you clean and avoid clutter. So you want to keep a lot of things. See, what people do is sometimes they have 5 books, 6 books on their bedside table, and then they have a table lamp, and then they have their devices, and then they have their medication. They have a lot of things going on right next to them, all in a visible space. That is better to be avoided. Keep it clutter free, keep it open. Maybe you're going to read, keep one book over there that you're currently reading. You don't need to keep 6 books over there. You don't need to keep magazines. And keep devices away from the bed as much as possible. If you can reach out to your a device, let's say you're reaching out to your phone, it is advisable not to. It is advisable not to charge on your bedside table. So usually we charge and we keep the mobile phone or an iPad right there. It is advisable not to keep that, and better not to watch anything on your bed. See, this is a disease. If you are a spiritual seeker, what are we fighting against? We are not fighting against we are fighting against inner demons, no doubt. But we are also fighting to a large extent against algorithms that are devices that are created to keep you hooked. So every hour or every minute or every time you get lost in the device scrolling and all these things, you are not only losing your time, but you're also losing control over your own mind. So in order to have control over your own mind, make sure that we don't get locked into this algorithm scrolling things and get caught while we are going to sleep, for example, or when we wake up from bed. So it is important to keep the electronic devices away from the bedside, if possible on the other end of the room, right? If so, usually the bedroom should be on the, see, I will tell you, if you are a master of the house, suppose you are the master of the house. When we say master of the house, you are the one who's making all the decisions in the house along with your spouse, if you do have a spouse. Then you should be sleeping in the southwest corner of the house. So if the house has a southwest bedroom, then it is ideal for you to sleep in the southwest corner. If you have a child, that child can be in the northeast corner, right? Or if it's a toddler, the toddler can sleep with you in your room. That's not a problem. But usually southwest corner bedrooms are meant for the masters of the house, the ones who make all the decisions. If it is your parents who are making all the decisions and they are living with you, better they sleep in the southwest bedroom. For a spiritual seeker, southwest bedrooms are completely okay. They help regulate the circadian rhythm. You get good sleep, and it is a comfortable space for spiritual seekers. Southeast bedrooms are also okay for spiritual seekers if you are single. If you are sleeping in a southeast bedroom with your wife, it is not recommended. If you are with a spouse or a partner, it is recommended that you sleep in the southwest bedroom. And if you are single, southeast is very good for spiritual practitioners. If you're doing ghor tapas, if you're doing any serious practice, it is good to be in southeast, right? It is good for brahmacharis. So if you're a brahmachari, if you're a celibate, you're practicing celibacy, southeast bedrooms are ideal, no problem about it. Then we have the northeast bedrooms. Northeast bedrooms are again very good for single spiritual seekers. If you are with a spouse or a partner, if there is any sexual activity in the room, better not to do that in the northeast room. Northeast room is called Devamula. Devamula is the space for devatas. It is a space, so it is a very very sensitive space. Your entire house, like in our body, we have sensitive spaces, right? Like our eyeballs are very sensitive, for example. Similarly, you can say northeast is like the eyeballs of your house. They are very very sensitive, so it's better. And if you are living in the northeast, Ishanya Mula or Deva Mula, northeast is very very sensitive. If you are staying there, better a single person should stay, not a grihastha, not someone with his wife living in that space. It is not meant for that. Children can live in northeast corners. Children can sleep in northeast corners, and spiritual seekers can stay, or it can even be your study, right? And northeast is the best place. Leaving the northeast room, northeast corner is the best place for puja. So if you're worshipping in the house to keep deity photos, all these things, northeast is the best space. And one more important thing is, no matter what room you are in, see, generally we don't say northwest. I will tell you very briefly why northwest is not advisable for people. Northwest is called Vayavya. So for people, especially spiritual seekers, if you want to do, if you are meditating, northwest space, your thoughts become more, you know. So it is for, especially for overthinkers, for people who have anxiety and, like, these kind of things, it increases the vata in the body. So it is not a good space if you want to meditate, if you want to have steadfast, concentration, you want to contemplate on spiritual ideas. Northwest is not an ideal space. Southwest is also not an ideal space for meditation. For sleeping, it is very good. It is good for sleeping, but not ideal for making it into a meditative space. And regardless of which room you're sleeping in, never face the south. The south direction belongs to Yama, right? So southern direction, your toes when you're sleeping should not face the south, right? It creates a lot of imbalances in the body. It gives you migraines, it gives you headaches. So some of you who might be watching and you're suffering from migraines and headaches, just see in which direction you are facing and sleeping. Avoid southern direction. In India especially, only when a person passes away, they face the body to the south, the toes face the south. Only then it is given the southern direction, because it eases the passage of the soul to leave the body and go to the southern direction. That is the direction of Yama, right? Other than this, usually we don't face the south. I know some people, and there is a very creative individual, a younger friend of mine. He's a very creative individual, but his energies have always been kind of tweaked in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? So because he's uncontrollable with his energies, he wants to do so many things at all times. When they bought a new house, he got excited and he ended up painting the northeast room. Northeast, like I said, is the Devamula of the house. That is the spiritual center of the house. That is the spiritual space of the house. If you screw up the spiritual center of the house, the rest of the house also becomes, you know, uh, uh, the energy is ruined in the rest of the house. When they bought the house, this friend of mine, this person, he ended up painting that room, that is the northeast room, in black in color. He ended up painting the northeast room black. So there were so many things. When I also went to the house, I noticed many things, and I was trying. The thing is, One of the most important things, whether you're a Vastu consultant, whether you're an astrologer, whether you're a spiritual teacher, even an Ayurvedic, healer. So most important thing is never give unsolicited advice. Nobody respects unsolicited advice, and I'm telling you from experience. Even if you mean it for their best, not everybody is open to the idea, and they will in fact look down upon you or make sure that they put you down or whatever. It is not be given. Generally, it is not a good idea to do this, to interfere in the fate of others. Only when someone comes up to you and asks you for advice, asks you for spiritual help, whatever it is, do whatever you can in your ability. If it's not within your ability, better not to pretend to know something and help others. Try to help others. So when I did see, I was very disappointed with how the house was shaping up. I tried to speak to the owner, but they were not very open to the ideas. And they ended up painting the northeast room black in color, which is the worst thing you can do to your house, right? So when within a month, the owner of that house uh, passed away, and so and that owner, who's the master of the house, was living in northeast room, whereas he should never have been in the northeast room. He should have slept in the southwest corner. So this is another example on how you should not, how important it is to make sure that the spaces are clean and the spaces are uncluttered. And it's common sense. You should not be sleeping in spaces where the whole the whole room is colored black, things like that. Especially northeast is a very sensitive area. It should be usually painted white, off whites, or very light colors. So one more thing I want to speak about is, I was talking about not keeping vigrahas, devatas, that is the vigraha, like the idols of gods, of devatas in your room, in the bedroom. And you should not be doing any worship in the bedroom, right? Bedroom is the space where we, take off our clothes, where we sleep, where we are not. It is not the most hygienic or the most sacred space of the house, because we are ourselves in the bedroom. So ideally, you should not be keeping any photos of any devatas in the room. Especially, see, some people keep their guru's photos. It is okay. But if only you follow the guru and your spouse does not follow the guru, then it is unfair to her or to him that you are keeping your guru's photo visible to both in the room. It might make the other person uncomfortable. So ideally, if you really want to keep a photo or picture, you can keep it on the bedside, but a smaller picture that you can look at whenever you want to look at. Let's say you want to wake up looking at that picture of your guru or the devata, that is okay, right? So that is another thing. Otherwise, bedrooms, especially all bedrooms, you should avoid keeping any devatas photos, vigrahas, or even gurus pictures and idols. So another mistake many people do is scented candles. They keep scented candles in the bedrooms and they light it and all that. It has been proven that some of these candles can cause even cancer. So I don't suggest that any candle, any fire, first of all, fire element should not come into your bedroom. Regardless, it is a safety hazard. So avoid scented candles in the room. And the entire lighting of the space is also important. We have to, in the bedroom, we have to soften the harshness of the bedroom. So whether you have a lot of winds coming in, it's better to have multi-layered curtains. It's better to have maybe a mosquito mesh to break the heavy winds coming in. So even I used to sit and I used to meditate facing a window, and that was I think it was the window was it was open on the west. It was a large window open on the west. For many years, I would have vata problem because of this. Even I was not aware that the western winds. I used to sit and meditate there and do pranayama there. The western winds are affecting, and it increases your vata. So the ideal way is to break that. If you can't change your space, better to break that space into, by adding, let's say, curtains and a mesh, and reducing the amount of western winds that come into your room. And see, there are other smaller recommendations. Never have anything blocking the doors. See, the door of any room is also very important. What people do, especially in Indian homes, is they put hooks on the bedroom doors or the bathroom doors, and they hang towels and all kinds of things, and the door also, it becomes heavy. the doors of all the rooms should never squeak, should never make sounds. Any door you open, any door you close, it should be clear. Right now you can look at your house and open all the doors and the windows, and you will see wherever there is a lot of squeaking in the house, that room will have certain issues. That individual living in the room will have, could have, I'm not saying will, could have certain maybe health issues or could have certain issues. So it is an indicator, not that the squeaking is causing the issue, but it is an indicator that part of that individual needs to be taken care of better, or that relationship has to be dealt with. These kind of things, the squeaking of the doors can be helped very easily by oiling and adding some oil and all these things. And by not putting any hooks on it, the doors should always open freely, should always close freely. There shouldn't be nothing under it so it catches, always the opening and the closing of the door should be done in a clean way. Every space you enter, there should never be a like a block, entering into a space. There should never be a shock or a jolt exiting any space. Every space you enter you should enter it clearly, freely, openly, and every exit also should be like that. And another issue we know is right near the doors, in as soon as you enter the house, we have our right footwear. This is the hallmark of every Indian home. As soon as you enter or right before that, you will have hundreds of, if there are guests, we'll have many pairs of footwear, and they're all over the place. It is not organized well. So that is also not a good thing. If you can avoid it, avoid keeping footwear right at the door. It's not a good place. The door is the Lakshmi Sthana. It is the place where Lakshmi resides. Lakshmi Narasimha, they say, resides on the door space. It is the residing space of Lakshmi Narasimha. It is all auspiciousness is there. So we should not keep any shoes or anything very close to that. There should be some distance to this. So now let us enter the puja room. What is the puja room? It is the worship space in your house. Not everybody has it. That now in modern apartments and smaller apartments in bigger cities, it's very difficult to have a designated space. So what they do is keep a puja room in near the kitchen usually. But that is the worst place to keep the devatas. Never keep your gods in the southeast. Southeast is the place of fire. It is a place where a woman or a person, whoever, a man, whoever is cooking there, it is good for that. It is not good to keep vigrahas and worship in the southeast, because it is also ugrasthana. So there is more fire element over there. So the devatas there also become a little ugra. Ugra is ferocious. So it is not meant. So if you are worshipping Shiva there, you can say that little more fierce element of Shiva will be seen. So the most safest place and ideal place is northeast corner of your house. If you don't have a northeast corner where you can worship, then north or east. These are okay. Even west to a large degree, to a large extent, even west is okay. Never worship in the south. Never worship in either southeast, southwest, or south. North, northeast, east is much better. Even west is okay. West is the fourth option. Anything between northeast, east, and northwest is okay. Then the west. Finally, we can come to the west for puja. So now what we do is, I have also grown up in a house where we had literally 300 deities, right? 300 pictures. So as long as I grew up with my maternal grandparents, and as long as my grandfather was alive, all this worship was going on very, very fiercely, very well, because that was his full-time job. See, since I was born, he had already retired, and he would wake up at around 3:34 in the morning, and the rest of the day he would only attend to the devatas, to attend to these deities, attend to puja and worship and all these things. Now other people are working. So once you are retired and you are passionate, or you are on the spiritual path, or you're religiously very interested in doing these pujas and all that, it is okay. Now once he passed away, his son, for example, cannot do this. They will not be able to do. just the amount of pictures we might have had, maybe even in hundreds. The number of pictures we had around the house could have been in hundreds. And my grandfather would wake up, pluck flowers from the tree, and my grandmother would make even garlands from these flowers, and he would go and put flowers and put these garlands for every single picture. And the pictures were not even at eye level, they were on top, top of the wall. So maybe like 8 feet above, 8 or 9 feet above. So he would climb on a stool, and every single picture he would do this patiently. See, this kind of bhakti or this kind of discipline nowadays nobody has. So ideally what I would suggest is, don't collect. It is not a hobby. Don't collect pictures. We go to Tirupati, I'll get one picture of Srinivasa Govinda. I will go to Chidambaram, I will get Nataraja. I'm not telling don't have bhakti or don't have devotion to this. But what are you going to do with these images? Will you be able to do justice to them? This is what we do. We'll go to Ranganatha Swami, Sri Rangam, we will get a picture of Ranganatha Swami. We will go to Ujjain, Mahakaleshwar, we will go and get a picture of this thing. We will go to Kashi. Kashi we are done, because every place we will have some murti, some vigraha. So the point is, it is not a hobby. Stop collecting pictures of gods and pictures of these things. Worship your Ishtadevata or your Kula Devata. See, every family will have a Kula Devata. In our house, for example, if you are worshipping Lakshmi, then that is your Kula Devata. Worship Lakshmi, no problem. Not that she is different from your Ishtadevata. See, we think, oh, my Ishtadevata is Shiva. Why am I worshipping Lakshmi? My mother was worshipping Lakshmi. See, you should be able to see whether Shiva or Lakshmi or Mahavishnu, you should be able to see all the devatas in the Kula Devata. Kula Devata is a representation of all devatas. Similarly, Ishta Devata is a representation of all devatas. Shiva is not different, Vishnu, this is different, that is. If you think like this and you worship one after the other, then your worship will also be a failure. So the ideal thing to do, I'm not telling whatever you have, get rid of it. If you are planning to set up a puja room for yourself in your new house or whatever, or if your puja room is very disorganized and you want to organize it, better to have one Ishta Devata. If you worship Shiva, get a Shivalinga, worship that Shivalinga. See, Shiva is what? He is Abhisheka Priya. Abhisheka is, like putting water on him, putting milk, right? Offering ablutions of water, ablutions of milk, ablutions of curd, offering to that. That is called Abhisheka. Right? We know that Shiva is Abhisheka Priya. Suppose we have a murti of Vishnu. Vishnu is Alankara Priya. Putting a tulsi mala around him, garland of flowers around him. And then the Deepa Aradhana. That is worshipping with the fire. Right? So always better. If you have multiple deities, it is okay. Don't add on to them. This is my point. Don't add on to this, because the idea is, first of all, in a puja room, it is better to have vigraha than a picture. See, picture of a devata is secondary. You can use the picture as a form to visualize. See, suppose we have a picture of Narayana in the puja room, it is well and good. You can picture the deity in your consciousness when you're meditating. Let's say you're meditating on Narayana, it's good. Suppose you're doing Satyanarayana Puja, you can use that picture while you're doing the Satyanarayana Puja. I'm not against it. But worship the Vigraha. Don't try and worship the 300 images in your house. That is not the right way. Worship the Vigraha. All that bhakti, everything should be single pointed, not multifaceted. All that things should be single point. That is the point of worship. Right? So one main Ishtadevata or one main Kula Devata, worship that in your puja room. Right? Why Vigraha? Again, why I am saying Vigraha is because you cannot do Abhisheka on a picture. Suppose you have a friend picture of Shiva, you cannot do Abhisheka, you cannot offer ablutions to the picture. Suppose you have a picture of Vishnu, you can't do Alankara to the picture, you can do Alankara to the Vigraha. So always better, whether it's Shaligrama, whether you have a Shivalinga, whether you have a small murti, Hanuman, always better to do that. Offer Naivedya to the Vigraha. It's always better to follow the tradition and do this. Nowadays, it has become more pictures and very less vigrahas. And vigrahas also should be panchaloha. There are certain rules, right? See, and one more mistake people do is they put pictures of their dead ancestors in the puja room. Suppose their parents or grandparents or great grandparents, ancestors, whoever is there. There are a lot of, I mean, we all in Indian homes we will see pictures, and people will offer worship to the pitris also, like they offer worship to the devatas. The devatas, the puja room is for the devatas. The pitrus or the ancestors, parents, grandparents, dead, whoever, should be kept in the southern half of the house, on the southern walls, never in the northeast space, right? Because south is again what? It is the space of Yama. So if you really want to keep it. I am not telling, we are not against adoration of your ancestors, not against remembrance of your ancestors, not against those things. But again, they are not to be worshipped. Worship is for the devatas. People think, see, there's a thing called, we have runa. Runa is like we have debt. So we have debt towards the devatas, rishis. There's something called pitru runa, rishi runa, and devata runa. Devata runa is the debt towards the devatas. Rishi runa is debt towards the rishis. And then we have the pitru runa. Pitru runa is, they think it is the debt towards the pitrus. But actually, the pitris, when we say pitris and we say this thing, there is a group of devatas called pitru devatas. So when we say we have the runa or the debt towards the pitris, no doubt we have a debt towards the ancestors, but it is meant to say that we have a debt towards the pitru devatas, or this group of devatas that rule the southern hemisphere, that rule the southern cardinal point. We have decided that there should be one central devata that we worship. Where should the deity face and what should we face? See, we should always, regardless of what you are doing, try and face the east. East is the king of all the directions. Any auspicious activity you are doing, it is better to face east. Especially puja should be done facing east. And the devatas, the murtis, can face the west. If east is not available, so, see, we are living in a space which we cannot control sometimes, it is fine. Then the next best is north, right? So these two are the best. Otherwise, avoid south. The worst case scenario is south, so avoid facing the south. Everything else is in order of preference, east, north, west, like that is fine. And one more thing is, we had a couple of years ago when we were renovating the house, we had another Vastu expert come in, and he was a friend of ours again, but he was an architect. But he was interested in giving unsolicited advice. So he came to my mother and he said, there is a window in your puja room, so you should close the window. There should be no ventilation in the puja room. And his point was, if there is ventilation in the puja room, whatever pujas we do, suppose we are, Deepa Aradhana, that is, we are moving the lamp in front of the deity, or an agarbatti, all the fragrance of the agarbatti, all the Deepa, all these things will go outside the house. And along with the smoke, it will take away the blessings that the devatas give us, or our hard work, or our bhakti, or our devotion will go away with the smoke. So this was some unsolicited advice, and my mother was very interested in this advice, and she said, this is a very good idea. I want to close the window. So what will happen if we close the window? First of all, in smaller spaces, the northeastern puja room, we will not have a very big space. It's not a separate room. It is a small nook or a small corner in the house. So then when we do the agarbatti and we light up diyas and all that, the smoke remains inside the room, which makes it very, very harmful for the person who is worshipping. So the first thing is, no problem if the blessings go to your neighbors. Let the blessings be shared with everybody. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. There is no issue there. So kindly always make sure your puja rooms are well ventilated. do not keep the puja rooms closed and without ventilation. Even my own grandfather, he was admitted to the hospital later in his life, and the doctors asked if he was a chain smoker, because every single day he would sit from 4 a.m. till 8:30 p.m. in the night in the puja room, and throughout the day 3 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times he would do the pujas, and the camphor he would light the camphor, he would light the diyas, and all that smoke remained in the room. It was a very small room, and because he was in this closed space for prolonged years, it ended up affecting his lungs in a very bad way. So there are lessons to be learnt. In retrospect, it's easy to say that you should not have done that or this, but there are lessons to be learnt, and so it is also very good to have some ventilation, if possible. If you have an exhaust, nothing like it, but have some good ventilation in the puja room as well. No harm if some of the blessings are shared with the neighbors. The final thing we have come to in the spaces is the meditation space. So meditation space is is the most crucial thing for the spiritual seeker. So the spiritual seeker should always again sit and face the east. Whenever he faces east, he is facing Indra, you can say the god of the devatas, and all auspiciousness is supposed to descend on him. Right? East is a place where you will have the least amount of thoughts. Remember that. Facing the east, you will have the least amount of thoughts. Facing the south also, you will have less thoughts, but that makes the mind tamasika. Tamasic is it makes the mind inert. So when you, an advanced meditator or meditator who has been meditating for many years, he will see that there are subtle differences when you face the west, when you face the south, when you face the north. You will be able to tell the difference in the way the energies respond and the way energies move in your body when you are facing a certain direction. So ideally always face east while meditating. If not possible, again north. West is the third, and in this regard west and south are almost equal. We should try not to face northwest. Northwest and southwest are very not at all ideal for meditators, because southwest makes your mind very inert and northwest makes your mind very active, so hyperactive. So instead of being able to control your thoughts, you end up increasing the power of the virility of the thoughts. So it is better to avoid facing northwest, west also, right? So these are the few things when facing, and it is always better that when you are meditating, always have a meditation space that is consistent. Have an asana. Asana is have a couple of mats. Never meditate on the bare ground. Always have asana. Asanas, you either have a wooden mat or mattress or anything that is relatively hard. We don't want a very hard surface, neither do we want a soft surface. Soft surface is not good for prolonged meditation. Whenever we put an asana, whenever we go into a yogic pose, when we're sitting down, we should be sitting in Siddhasana, Sukhasana, Ardha Padmasana or Padmasana. These are the 4 postures that are ideal for meditation. The best is Padmasana. See, in Padmasana, it is easiest to get into Samadhi. Right? If you cannot do these things, even Vajrasana is okay. Vajrasana also is a very good asana. Especially it helps with the wind energies in the body. It helps the vata in the body. So these 4 asanas are very important while sitting. And also the mattress you use is very important. The mat you use is very important. Ideally sit on a hard surface, not a very soft surface. Suppose the meditation space, the meditation nook is in your bedroom, it is absolutely fine. There is no problem with it. Make sure it is cleaned continuously, and wherever your meditation nook is, avoid doing any other activities over there, any other non-spiritual activities. When I say spiritual, you can meditate in the same space, you can do japa, you can do pranayama. All these things can be done there, including if you are a person who is into doing fire rituals. That seat of from where you do the fire ritual is an amazing place to do meditation in. Right? The energies are established in that space. It is ideal Even if you are doing Agnihotra, for example, or you're doing any kind of homas in the house, which is rare, people don't do as much. But if you are doing, this is good. Even if you have a space in your house where you're doing sun worshipping, whether you're doing something called Sandhya Vandana, which not everybody is doing nowadays. There is a very tiny population, tiny amount of people who are doing Sandhya Vandana daily. But these people, I tell you, are blessed. Whoever is doing Sandhya Vandana, if any of you are doing, whoever's watching, please mention in the video, in the comments below. So all these things can be done in one space. Away from the asana, it's okay if it's in the same area, you can do your yoga practices or yoga kriyas. That is also recommended. That is also okay to do that in this space. Other than this, avoid doing anything else, including books. Do not read books in your meditation space. Meditation space is only for meditation and these spiritual activities. Books can be done in a separate space. Right? So these three spaces we have discussed today, and these are the most important steps that we must follow in order to help our spiritual growth and create an harmonious space for ourselves. So now I will tell you some more recommendations for overall Vastu for your house. See, whatever problems we have on the spiritual path, there are three ways to solve these problems. One is wait for the right time to find the right solution. That is called kala. The time has to come. Suppose you have a mental block, suppose you have an emotional block, suppose you're not able to practice diligently. For all, sometimes the right time has to come for you to suddenly have that energy, have that time to, break through this ceiling of this obstacle. The second thing is something called kshetra, which is what which is what we are discussing today. Kshetra is the space that is under our control. The time is not under our control, but kshetra to a large extent is under our control. The space we create for ourselves is under our control. And then finally, we have something called discipline, right? Anusthana. So when we have anusthana and we discipline in a disciplined way, we say we are going to help ourselves. So regardless of the kshetra and kala, you can overcome your obstacles. See, there are many spiritual giants, including Shirdi Sai Baba also. He was living in a broken down place. He called it Dwarkamai, right? He was living in a broken down place, and he was meditating there, or he was shining as the self over there. Similarly, Kanchi Shankaracharya, that is Chandrasekharendra Saraswati, whenever he would travel, he would sleep in goshalas or he would sleep in cow sheds, right? He would sleep outside, goshalas along with the cows and all that. So for these kind of people, there is no kshetra, there is no kala, no sandarbha. They are beyond all those things. But to reach that stage, just as a tree, when you are a small plant, a cow, something can come and damage this plant. That's why we create that fence around that small plant. So let it, become a stronger thing. Let it grow a little, and then that fence will automatically be broken, and the tree will outgrow the fence. Similarly, all these Vastu, all these things are for people who are on the path, who are not mentally strong enough, physically not able to, So once you are mentally strong and you are able to deal with these issues, even Vastu will change according to your energy, right? There are so many great people who used to sleep in graveyards. Graveyards would become auspicious places because of their energies. So Vastu is only temporary. Vastu is for people, for us to, as a guide, as a guiding force to help us. Not to say that it stops being relevant. It stops being relevant to the individual who has realized himself. It does not stop being relevant to everybody all over. So till we strengthen our resolve, till we are energetically powerful enough, till we can cleanse our aura, just by closing our eyes and purify not only ourselves but everything we touch around us. Till then, I think we should follow some things that will help our spiritual growth. So one of the most important things that can help us in every home, which people don't do enough nowadays. When I was growing up, they were doing. Nowadays in modern homes, we don't see, people don't light diyas. So diyas are lamps, right? And lamps, so there is a whole science behind it. It is not that lamps are just lamps and they emitting light. No, the kind of oil you use in the lamp, even our ancient sages have discussed this in great detail in certain books. Not all of them are available today. So they speak, when you put sesame oil in the lamp, the kind of light it emits, and by witnessing this light or witnessing the space around or existing in the space, it has a certain effect on you. Just as how when we consume sesame oil, there's an effect on our body, right? Similarly, when we, instead of consumption like this, when we consume through the eyes, there is some effect on the body. So the most auspicious thing of all the oils that we can use in a lamp is cow's ghee. And when we say cow, we mean Indian cows, not the ones that are injected with hormones and all kinds of things, and not Jersey cows. There are Hindu cows, Hindu ghee, and all these things. There are a lot of Indian cows. I don't mean Indian, I mean pure breed cows, which are organic and not injected with anything. The ghee or the clarified butter from these cows to be utilized in these lamps, it is the most auspicious thing, and it purifies the environment. So whichever room it is in, it will purify the environment. So now we will talk about a few things that will purify the space. Now till now we were speaking about where to put your bed, which direction to look at, all these things. But how to purify the space itself? Because we all know, sometimes we enter certain homes and we feel good about it and we feel comfortable. Even in our home, there are certain spaces where we are very comfortable and certain spaces where we are not. We know the energy of this place is not so good, right? So one of the main things that you can help is by lighting cow's a lamp by fueled by cow's ghee. Using this ghee to light up the lamp is very auspicious, very purificatory for the house. The other thing what we can do is, when you do worship, when you are worshipping in the puja room, we do the aradhana. It's called deepa aradhana. Once you are finished with the deepa aradhana, you have the camphor still on your on your plate. You can take this camphor around into all the rooms of the house, right? And if there are any pictures there, or if you can just purify the space in every part of the house. So taking lit camphor is also very good for spaces. So one, we have the cow's ghee lamp, and the second thing we can say is camphor. The third thing, which is controversial and many people mock the Hindus for this, it is Gomutra. Gomutra is cow's urine, right? See, there have been Hindus are no. It's not the first time that we have been made fun of. For thousands of years, a lot of people have come and said things and all that. It does not affect us. We do what we think is right, and what we think is right has a lot of spiritual evidence. So even today, there is a lot of research has gone behind Gomutra's properties. It has antioxidants, it is antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, and it is a detoxifier of the environment. Even distilled Gomutra, when had, has tremendous benefits on the body. When you have consumed it, when you drink some portions, when you consume it, it has a lot of benefit for the body. But in this context, I am not asking you to drink it, so don't worry about it. We are talking about using it as a disinfectant in the house. See, we use all these chemicals and we swap the floors in the house. Indian homes, we swap the floors with these chemicals. What I would suggest is add a small portion of the Gomutra. See, it is available in stores, and your local milkman, they will have cows that they can get you a bottle of Gomutra anytime. So use this, and you will see that it is also a mosquito repellent. Ever since we have started using it in our house, mosquitoes, bugs, lizards, a lot of these things, because the smell is such that they don't come into the house. So it is a disinfectant, and it is not a bad smell. It does not smell like urine, right? So Gomutra has a lot of properties. It purifies the environment, and most importantly, it clarifies your aura. So if your aura is muddled, suppose you have gone to some negative space, you have gone to let's say a funeral home, or you have gone to a hospital, or you have gone to a space, let's say a courtroom or some space, like a police station or some area of conflict, and you come back, your aura will be depleted, the energy in your body will be depleted. So even sprinkling in the space, if you don't want to sprinkle it on yourself, you can sprinkle it in the space around you, in your bedroom, for example. This purifies aura, this cleanses the environment. So Gomutra is a very important element in cleansing the environment in your house. Then we have something called Tulsi. Tulsi is holy basil. It has tremendous health benefits, and according to Ayurveda, it is like Amruta itself, right? It is very, very good for the human body. But in this context, keeping a Tulsi pot right outside your doorstep, right, in the northern or the eastern direction, is very good for your house. It repels bugs and mosquitoes. It has a very pungent smell to it. It repels all the mosquitoes and all these things. And Tulsi, the plant, is considered to be a manifestation of Mahalakshmi. So it says it manifests abundance in the house. So keeping a Lakshmi plant, a well-fed, it's a healthy Lakshmi plant in your house, is significator of Mahalakshmi entering your house. It is significator of the goddess of wealth. So it is good for abundance, right? So it is a good thing to keep in your house. And also plucking, let's say, one or two leaves in the morning, just putting in the water and drinking that water is very, very good for your immunity. It boosts your immunity a lot. And Tulsi plant is supposed to give out oxygen for 20 hours in a day. So it has a lot of benefits, keeping a Tulsi plant. But it is a little difficult plant to keep in the house, because if you don't have enough sunlight, then it becomes difficult for it to keep it alive. So better to keep it in the northern or the eastern direction if you have sufficient sunlight. And then we have a few more things. So we know about, there is something called Vastu salt. Vastu salt is nothing but Himalayan salt or rock salt. Salt has this property of absorbing negativity. So if there's a lot of negativity in your house, there's a lot of conflict, or somebody is very depressed and there's some negative space, in usually like teenagers in the house, either they are going through anger issues, they are very irritated with their parents, or they're going through depression, things like that. So keeping rock salt in certain corners of the house is very beneficial, right? Along with rock salt, northeastern part of every room, especially the northeastern part of the house, it is good to keep a bowl of water. Other than the vessel of water in the house, every northeast corner of every room, it is also good to keep a little bit of rock salt or Himalayan salt, or what we call Vastu salt. So this is also very good. And now we also talk about, finally, I just want to talk about the puja. In the puja room, people are doing worship, but one thing is missing in almost all the houses today, in all the homes, in the worship. See, what we do when we worship, we'll put a garland of flowers, or we'll keep two flowers at the deity. We'll move the agarbattis like that. So not much is going on. Before, whenever the puja was to be started, they would use a conch shell, which we call the shankha. And shankha, they would blow into the shankha. But after blowing into the shankha, they would start their pujas. And even at the end of the puja, to show that the puja has ended, they would blow the shankha. This blowing of the conch shell also, these kind of vibrations, it's very good for the house. So a lot of bugs and rats and insects and lizards and all these things will not even enter. Every day, let's say you're doing puja 3 times a day. Somebody is doing puja, you're doing in the morning. Let's say your spouse or your mother is doing in the evening. Twice a day, if you blow this conch shell, it's enough to keep half the bugs outside your house, rats and all these things. They will dare not enter the house. So that is the material benefit of blowing the conch shell. There are spiritual benefits as well. And then also, along with the rock salt, there are two more things. See, I'm just giving you some options which has worked for me and which has worked with. This was given by certain Shankaracharyas, which was used even in the Kanchi Kamakoti temple, right? So one of the things what you can do is, there's something called Pachakarpura. Pachakarpura is a camphor, but I don't know what pacha is in English. So it is not processed camphor, it is raw camphor. So breaking the camphor, so when we put, let's say, water in the northeastern direction of every room or northeastern corner of the house, it is very good to keep that space with some water. When we're doing that, it is good to add pachakarpura, that is the camphor, along with some sandalwood paste. So you mix this, have a mixture of the sandalwood paste and pachakarpura, and put this in the northeastern side of the room or the house. So it is a natural fragrance for the house, right? So naturally there is fragrance in the house, and it is a natural air cooler. So the temperature of the house, especially if you are in heavy climates or um, what we say hot and humid climates, it moisturizes the air, it adds fragrance, and it also cools the temperature by a few degrees. You could try this and let me know how it works. But we have been doing this for a couple of years, and it is an amazing, it smells amazing, the fragrance is very good, and it keeps the energy of the house a little mellow. It you can feel the um, lightness of um, experience, lightness of being in the house because of this fragrance. So it definitely does help. Finally, we have spoken about all the things inside the house. Now we will talk about only two things outside the house. Right now, first thing is, as soon as you enter the house, when you're about to enter the house, it is best that your guests or you yourself do not encounter many footwear, chappals, shoes, all these things outside the house as soon as you enter. It is better if they're organized separately, a little away from your doorstep. Do not have chappals or anything right at your doorstep, right? And around, let's say, 3 feet from the middle of your door, 3 feet away is the bindu, right? That in a way is Brahma Bindu. It is not Brahma Bindu of your entire building. It is a Brahma Bindu of only your house. So let's say around 3 to 3.5 feet from your center of your door, draw a straight line, put a dot there, and from that dot you have to. There is a opportunity for you, if possible, to draw auspicious yantras in front of your house. What is this called? Every South Indian will know this as Rangoli. I'm not sure to what extent they are doing it in North India, but in southern India, every single home when I was growing up would have rangolis, and that was done with certain powders which would prevent again lizards and snakes and scorpions and mongoose and all that to enter the house. But they also fed the birds. That thing, the birds would come from the sparrows and all that, and would feed on this powder and go back. So these yantras, very powerful yantras, were drawn outside our homes, and it is a welcoming of auspiciousness into the home. That is the whole idea of a rangoli. But also the idea is, that is the Brahma Bindu. When you enter the house, when there is a rangoli in front of the house, people do not walk directly. They walk around the rangoli and enter the house. And so that way, the Brahma Bindu is kept clear. So the space in front of your house is clear of negativity. It's clear of dirt. It's cleared of pollution. So people are walking across and then entering the home. So these are the few ideas for outside the house. Now, what are we famous for doing outside the house? How many homes have you seen where we have a picture of Ganesha? Right? We have a picture of Ganesha outside the house. So this is not to be done under any condition. Do not put a deity, do not put a picture of any devata, of your guru, anything outside the door of your house. It is to be done inside the house. See, Ganesha especially, people misunderstand Ganesha. Ganesha took that form to kill a monster called Gajasura. Right? So he is a Ugra Devata. He is not a, now they've made like a teddy bear, they've created Ganesha's, a personality like a teddy bear. He is not like that. He is a very Ugra Devata. He is extraordinarily intelligent. That is not the thing. But with that intelligence, he is a Ganapati. He is the leader of the Ganas of Shiva. So he is a commander in chief for Shiva's army in a way, right? So he is not a soft deity and all that. So It is ideal, it is not right to put Ganesha outside the door of the house to welcome your guests or to do anything like that near the chappals and near the shoes, footwear. That is not the thing. You want to give him a space, give him a space inside your puja room and worship him. Do not disrespect any devatas. I'm not telling only Ganesha. Do not disrespect any devatas putting their pictures or idols right outside your home. No matter what any Vastu expert says, no Vastu Shastra says put Ganesha outside your compound wall or anything like that. Right? Any vigrahas you have, you should worship them. If you're not going to worship them, don't keep them. And they are not to be kept in your compound walls for sure or outside your doors. Instead of that, you want to welcome people with auspiciousness, or you want to welcome energies into your house with auspiciousness, put Om outside the door. Om on your door is completely, it is recommended. If not Om, you can even use the swastika. Swastika today has negative connotations because somebody else used it, whatever, 50, 70, 80 years ago, whatever. It has some negative, but that is not the thing. This has been going on for thousands of years. It is a symbol of auspiciousness. It is a symbol of Mahalakshmi. It is a symbol of abundance. It is a symbol of, Mahalakshmi, right? So it is good to keep symbol of prosperity. So it is good to put the swastika, the Hindu swastika, outside your door. I think we have covered quite a bit, and most of this is not just for spiritual seeker. It holds good for all people, but especially for the spiritual seeker, I am trying to find some solutions so you can create a nice, comfortable environment to meditate and to discover your own self. There are some more few important things that I would like to say. Very quickly, I would like to go over them. Some of the common mistakes that, especially a spiritual seeker, we should practice Vairagya in the house also. What is Vairagya? Get rid of the clothes that don't fit you anymore. Get rid of things from the house that you have not used for 6 months or 1 year. Practice minimalism to certain degree, whatever degree you are comfortable. Do not hoard things. Just because you have a nice chair and you had 4 more chairs and you don't want to get rid of them, you cannot have 8 chairs in the house when there are only 2 people staying there and barely any guests coming. So avoid, the first and foremost thing is avoid clutter. Do not hoard. Share whatever you have with people around you. Maybe there are people who are lesser privileged. You can share your clothes with them. You can share your furniture with them. You can, even if you have, let's say, 3 televisions, one old televisions you don't use anymore, share that with them. It is fine. You don't lose anything. They are doing you a favor by taking away. This is your old karma. Get rid of them. So that is the first thing. And do not ignore directions. Even in the living room, wherever you're sitting, do not ignore directions. Always face east, as much as possible, east, north, northeast, northwest, and then west, and then finally, if there are no other options, south or southwest. Southern directions, do not face and do any of the things, whether you're cooking, face east, face north, things like that. So this is another important thing. And finally, a very simple thing that we all know, but it needs a little going over, is maintenance. Do not neglect maintenance. No matter how busy your life is, no matter how spiritually inclined you are and you want to meditate and all these things, cleanliness is also meditation. Cleaning your room, nothing like cleaning your room. Cleaning your room is like cleaning your thoughts, right? Make sure you give some time. It is a spiritual activity, is what I'm trying to say. Make sure you give yourself some time every week or every day, or bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is, to clean the space, right? Don't rely upon, my mother will do this for me, my wife will do this for me, or my maids will do this for me. Clean your space yourself to a large extent. To whatever degree you can, do the dusting. Get rid of old weeds, old clothes, old stuff. Make sure that rotation should happen. You cannot keep bringing in new things and still keep the old things as well. The rotation should happen. Let the new things come and let the older disappear. Let it go to others who might need them. So these 3 things are there. Finally, these are the simple points to cleanse, purify, and create a harmonious environment in your house. Not just for spiritual seekers, I think maybe it is good for all people. So I hope you enjoy the video. And if you have any doubts, please let me know in the comments.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more. With grace and gratitude, see you next time.